kind of give us like that
Absolutely.
snapshot. Yeah.
So my husband and I met and married 27 years ago. I was 20 and he had custody of 5 of his 6 children, and I had 2 boys from previous relationships. And he had sober and clean for 3 years. We met, had a very short courtship. I think we dated for 4 or 5 months before we got married. And we were sober. We were the designated drivers. We liked to sing karaoke. He likes to play pool. And so, we were just blending our families. Again, 7 kids under one roof, 6 boys and a girl. And
Yeah.
in 2000, just a couple years into our marriage, we had Freddie, which literally made us yours, mine, and ours. And right about that time, someone had come up to my husband in a bar. He was in a couple of different pool leagues, and they had asked him if he could put on a roof. They had a house that needed a roof right away. Could he do it? And he quickly put together a roofing crew and had this job done. And before we knew it, blessed us with a construction company, and we were making tens of thousands of dollars a month, literally. Basically, because Tony, even though he was clean and sober, he still had all of those friends. He had worked in the union. He had all those laborers and contractors. And so that's where that slow fade comes in. We started having all these guys in our front row and up close and personal, because we thought we were going to influence them with our family friendly lifestyle, right? We prayed before meals. We sat down and ate at the dinner table. Our kids were in YMCA swim lessons. I had a minivan. We went to church sometimes, but we sent our kids every week. So surely that makes us good enough,
Got the kids
and
churched.
then again, like I said, we were sober. So we're not drinking.
Yeah.
We're not doing drugs. We think it's being good is good enough. And that slow fade, having eventually 28 workers, I think was the most we had at one time, several from the safe house, which means they were on a lockdown facility, but to leave during the day and work. And so we had painting crews, siding crews, like all these like total gutting houses.
Yeah.
And ended up happening was behaviors started wearing off on us instead of us wearing off on them. Bad company corrupts good manners. And within of starting that construction company, nights turned to away where my husband wouldn't come home. I would see him for days on lying, infidelity. Eventually, our kids became wards of the state. We had been arrested with some marijuana, and both of us spent the night in jail. Our kids became wards of the state. Then taught my husband how to manufacture methamphetamine. And so he started not just dealing in the pot, but dealing in the manufacturing methamphetamine as well. And eventually I had had enough. I found out he had been cheating on me. And so I left him. And I wanted him back. And it's silly to say that this is the lie that got me, but there was a song in the clubs. My learned coping mechanism was drinking. So I was 24, going through a divorce, 3 kids, 3 different dads. And so what do? You were sober when you turned 21. So I'm gonna hit the bars. And Dr. Dre came out with a song called Housewife in 2002 when I got divorced. And the lyrics say, "You can't turn a hoe into a housewife." And I remember in my mind, those lyrics being twisted, saying, you were a housewife. He didn't want you. He on you with strippers and dancers and party girls. If you wouldn't be so uptight, if you wouldn't be so rigid, if you wouldn't be so demanding, and you would just be a fun party girl, you could have your marriage back. And so I called him up and I said, "Hey, I know you're doing meth and I want to do it too." And I was instantly addicted. I just found myself loving the way that methamphetamine made me feel, how much I could how I could party all night and then get up and go to work. In corporate America, I was in sales. It allowed me to be very aggressive and very bold with my words. And so I found myself rising to the top of the leaderboard in sales. And, sin's fun in the beginning. If we're all honest, it wouldn't have us hooked if it wasn't. And after just 4 months from my husband's relapse, he found himself in prison and I spiraled out of control. The divorce was final. We're separated, divorced. He does 3.5 years and I spiraled. Didn't want anything to do with him. I honestly blamed, like when you work the steps, you see where, you had a line drawn in the sand, I will do this. And eventually you move that more and more. And
Mhm.
when he got out of prison and proved to me that it wasn't jailhouse religion, that he had honestly had a heart change, he made me want what he had. He got out of prison, and that Damascus Road experience played out. It was a Friday morning. He
Mm.
shows up at my doorstep, and he's been out of prison for a week. I did not go looking for him. And when I open my door and I see him, I'm looking at him thinking he's judging me. I've got a
Yeah.
blown out track mark in my arm. So now he knows I'm on the needle. He didn't know that. I was wearing a pro gay shirt. So now, and he didn't know that. And like the look of disgust on his face, or at least that's the lie Satan told me. He's
Yeah.
here to
Yeah.
judge you. He's going to take your kids from you. He will not stand
Mm.
by while you're getting high. He's going to tout his Bible at you, because isn't that what Christians do? And just slam the door in his face before, And so as I'm starting to shut the door, our son Freddie was 5 and had heard his father's voice and came running in, Daddy, Daddy. So I was like, fine, fine. You want to talk? We'll talk. Let's go to the kitchen, sit down and talk. Well, I didn't have drugs and I didn't have any money. I remember it for a fact because I had never wore that pro gay shirt during the day. And I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I put it on thinking if I wore it in front of a drug dealer that I might get some free drugs, because he would hope to get a free show. Like that's how sick that world is. And so I'm wearing this shirt. I don't have drugs. I'm upset and angry. Freddie will not shut up. He will not leave us alone so I can get this lecture over with. And so I'm like, Freddie, just go into the bleeping other, and I curse out my 5-year-old. And then he hangs his head down and he begins to cry, like huge crocodile tears. And
Yeah.
he starts to walk in the other room, and Tony says, Freddie, come here. And he picks him up and he puts him on his lap and he just squeezes him, and he doesn't have a shirt on. He's rubbing his little back and he's saying, Freddie, mommy and daddy love you. And mommy and daddy want to hear what you have to say. He's putting his fingers through his hair, saying, but mommy and daddy need you to be the obedient little boy that you are. Be a good boy, go in the other room and let us talk first. And when mommy and daddy are done, we will come hear what you have to say. And he gave him a hug
Mm.
and a kiss on the forehead and sent him in the other room. And that was the moment. That was
Wow.
Romans 2:4 on display, the kindness and goodness of God. But most importantly, when you're on meth, you can pull everyone into your chaos quick, fast, and in a hurry. Like when
Mhm.
you're in addiction, when you're like, you can flip a room quick. Tony pulled me into his peace, into God's peace. Like that was Galatians, fruit of the Spirit on, and most importantly, love. But
Yeah.
how I knew it was real, because you can't fake self control. When
Yeah.
someone curses out your 5-year-old, you can't fake self control. And he displayed self control. And then he covered my sin. Like the Tony Thompson I knew pre jail would have been like, Daddy's home now, Daddy's going to fix it. But he said, Daddy and mommy love you. Daddy
Mm.
and mommy want to hear what you have to say. Like he knew that I was where I was at because he led me there, even if he hadn't
Mm.
been present for the past 3.5 years.
Wow.
And I wanted that.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that. Now, did I want to do the work? I was willing to relocate and get rid of everything and put the new good on. But as
Mhm.
far as renewing me reading my Bible, me being intentional about praying for my family, everything like that, that didn't happen for about 7 years. I was a dry drunk. I was an
Mhm.
emotional helicopter Christian.
Yeah.
My mood was dictated by my husband and by kids. And it wasn't until we went to New Orleans to plant a church that I became what a pastor's wife should be. That I started filling my house in order to be able to pour out and love people well.
Yeah, and that it's interesting because it is a process of sanctification, and we never really
Absolutely.
arrive. But like for me, I mean, I was drinking alcoholically for 5 years after I became a Christian, and I'm at a Christian station. Hallelujah!
Yeah.
playing all the
Yeah.
Christian songs and, and
Yeah.
then I leave and, go get drunk. And, then I got sober and it was 10 years later before I really started to look at the family dynamics and just the extreme codependency and that I didn't even know who I was. Like, who am
Yeah.
I? Because I was defined by everything outside of myself. Did I do good today? Did my boss love me? Did I sound good on the air? Did I? Because if I did everything good, then I was good, and my self-esteem was regulated by all this stuff. And if I didn't do
Yes.
everything good, then it was a bad day. And I mean, and I don't say that to give people not hope. It was good. I mean, it was good, and I was sober and had an awesome husband. I'm just saying, but it was the layers of the onion, and it does. It takes time, and God sees the little child. God, we're children, He sees us when we were
Exactly.
wounded, when we were 5. He doesn't
Yep.
see. I'm not saying he doesn't see the sin, but he sees the pain that's connected to it. And he sees us trying to do all this stuff in this horrible world to fix ourselves through the wrong means. And it's
Yes.
not like you're just this big ball of shame, because that's not who God is. It's his kindness. I mean, here I get
Yes.
sober, and I'm not even sober a year, and he blesses me with the most amazing husband 20 years later. I didn't deserve
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
He should have just said, well, you at least need to get a year, but he didn't do any of that. Right. And,
Right. Yep.
so, I mean, it's amazing. God's goodness. He doesn't even judge like the world judges.
Yeah. That's probably the hardest part when I sponsor girls or mentor people is a lot of times they're single and
Yeah.
they want what I have, and I didn't have to get sober single. I had a
Yeah.
godly man to walk me through, to pray for me, and to patiently, work with me and wait. And now, we listen to sermons together. I remember the first 5 years, like, why do you always have to listen to sermons? Why do you always, all these things? But now, like, we can't wait to listen to stuff and then rewind it and be like, did you hear that? Wasn't that amazing? Like how they
Yeah.
explain that. And so now it's just a completely different relationship dynamic.
Hmm.
It's truly beautiful. It really is.